I've just been talking about maths at school and stuff, like how I was in the second to bottom set for maths and the top set for everything else, English. I mean, I was always pretty good at words, I've always studied words, and I don't just mean at school. I mean, I've always looked at sort of dictionaries and stuff, and I've always read literature. I've always read a lot of books. I used to read a lot of fiction, now I read a lot of fact books as well, computer programming books, all sorts. So I've never really had that much of a problem with words, but it was numbers for me. Numbers were the thing that it wasn't that I wasn't able to do them, I found that out now. It's just that there's a different way that works for me to understand numbers. For example, when I'm trying to do a calculation in my mind, I can add up, let's say I'm adding them together, two numbers. I can't choose any numbers because they're just sort of foreign to me in a way. But what happens is, I add up, say, the tens column, whatever you call this, yeah. I don't even know basic stuff like this, I've avoided it, you see. Right? I can keep two calculations in my mind. When I get to the third one, surprise, surprise, 1, 2, 3, neutral, neutral, anyway, I can keep two calculations in my mind. When I get to the third one, it's really hard to describe, but I look at it in my mind, that's it, like I go to it in my mind, sort of thing. It's like it's over there in my head, and I'm like, right, I'm going to it. And then I forget what the other one is, or this one, and it goes, and it's not like I can get it back, I can recall it, it's gone. And that's the thing, you see, when I get to the third calculation in my mind, I can't do it. I could use a piece of paper, I suppose, but I mean, when you're at work and stuff, and you've got these basic, simple things to do, but you're well educated as well, that's the weird thing with me, you see. I haven't actually done a degree, because I haven't got the academic qualifications to do a degree. But yeah, I can talk about the Riemann hypothesis, etc., etc. Russell's paradox, chicken and the egg. I can write my website, protheory.com. But yet they won't let me do a degree, because I haven't got the A-levels. My thinking's too unfocused, inverted commas. Okay? I mean, can you imagine how frustrating this is for me, you know? For everybody who may or may not be dyslexic or have some kind of dyslexia or something holding them back like this. It is so frustrating, you know? All my life I wanted to do a degree, right? I wanted to leave school and do a degree in history. That was what I wanted to do. That was my absolute dream, was to do a history degree. And work in a museum or a castle or some kind of historic building of some sort, because that's when I felt most alive as a kid, you know, all my childhood and stuff. I was like, history was just the most buzzing thing to me at the time, you know what I mean, when I was growing up, right? Because history's everything that happened before, but I don't want to get into that, so I'm getting off topic again. But I couldn't do it, you see. Like I said, I did these A-levels, and I tried to do a long study in crime, like a dissertation, that's what you call it, yeah. I mean, we knew it was a long study at school, that was the term they used. But anyway, I tried to do one of them in crime around, you know, my local area in the past, or Victorian times, I think it was, because it was sort of Victorian history, pretty much we did. And I couldn't do it. And you know, this meant if I did this, I would have only had a 2-hour exam instead of a 3-hour exam or something. And I just couldn't do it, to be quite honest. I couldn't do one in European political history either, which was my other subject. Was 2 history classes in A-level. So I had to do 2 3-hour exams, and I could have sworn that I wrote an excellent essay, right? A really good essay about the 1905 revolution in Russia. And do you know what grade I got, right? I got a U. Right, that's not even GCSE level. In my favourite subject, history. My favourite subject since I was a little kid, okay? And I got a U, ungraded, which means nothing. You know, that's the worst of the worst, so to speak. Absolutely no good at all, right? And I was gutted, you know what I mean, right? And I'm sure if I was doing medieval history, it would have been different. If I was doing sort of Tudor period or something, or Stuarts, it would have been different, because that interests me. But British political history, sort of, you know, Victorian era political history is just boring to me, or it was. I'm actually interested in it now, but now I understand what it really is. But like I said, I didn't know I was dyslexic, you see, so I was like, oh man, you know, something's gone wrong here. Maybe I was just lazy, maybe it's this. But I mean, I failed, you see, and that's. I just wish that I didn't have to go through an exam, because it put me under so much pressure. I was having panic attacks, didn't realise what panic attacks were either. And I got them through all my exams. Like, my legs used to start shaking and stuff, which isn't actually panic attack related, so to speak, but that's just another thing of the pressure I was under. But I didn't know what it was, you see, no one told me. And there was no alternative but to do an exam. And I think exams are unfair. So they work for some people, but they don't work for everybody. Certainly not for me, okay, because it put me under too much pressure. And this is like 2 years of solid study that comes down to 3 hours, and if you fail in that 3 hours, that's it. Your 2 years are wasted. I don't think that's a bit wasteful. 2 years for 3 hours. Right? We're talking about saving the environment and stuff and conserving energy and stuff. Can you imagine how much energy I put into those 2 years, yeah? And it comes down to 3 hours. And I've only got one chance, and if I fail, I have to resit at least 1 year to take this 3-hour exam again. But if someone had sat me down and said, okay, what have you learned? I'd say, right, I've learned about the Whigs, the Liberals, Conservatives, everything else. Do you know what I mean? All these different parties throughout the history, the Victorian era and stuff. All these different radicals, all these reforms and stuff, reforms like with the mines and the working age of children. And we also did a bit of social and economic history, which I found fascinating as well. If they'd have sat me down, like I say, and said, okay, we're just going to talk to you for a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, and see if you really understand this, because that's what it should be about. It shouldn't be about, oh, I can write such and such on a piece of paper. Well, maybe that shows that some people understand it on a technicality, but there's a different understanding as well. I was seeing this in my head, and I might not have been able to put this into words, but I think it's unfair to expect that somebody can or should just express 2 years of work in 3 hours. It's just ridiculous, I think.